Well, good evening everyone and welcome to this ordinary meeting of Devonport City Council. It is Monday, April 26th and it's 5:30. Council acknowledge and pay respects to the Tasmanian Aboriginal community as the traditional and original owners and continuing custodians of this land on which we meet. All persons in attendance are advised that it's council policy to record council meetings in accordance with council's digital recording policy. The digital recording of this meeting will be made available to the public on council's website for a minimum period of 6 months. The meeting is also being live streamed on council's YouTube channel. Item 1 on the agenda is apologies, and we have apologies from Councillor Laycock and Deputy Mayor Jarman. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest in any item on the open agenda, please? No. Moving on. Item 3.1.1 is confirmation of minutes of the last meeting, which was March 22nd. Do I have a mover?
So moved. Second.
Councillor Perry, Councillor Ennis. Thank you. Councillor Perry.
Nothing. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Ennis. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Perry to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 3.2 is public question time. Item 3.2.1 is responses to questions raised at prior meetings. Do I have a mover of the recommendation, please?
I'll move.
Councillor Hollister, thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Newborn, thank you. Councillor Hollister, any comments?
Nothing further to add. The responses are all there. People agree.
Thank you. Councillor Newborn.
Nothing better.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Councillor Hollister to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 3.2.2 is questions on notice from the public, and there is a recommendation there for those responses, please.
So moved.
Councillor Perry, thank you. Seconder.
Maybe a second.
Councillor Alexio, thank you. Councillor Perry.
Questions and answers in the report. Nothing further to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Alexio.
Nothing further to add, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Councillor Perry, close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 3.2.3 is questions without notice from the public. When members of the public gallery have the opportunity to ask questions of council, I would ask you to come forward with your name and address and ask your questions. Thank you.
Rodney Russell, 225 Steel Street, Devonport. Queen Mary Rest Park. Question: would it be possible for council to ask their neighbour to remove the fence from the park and place it on their own property? The security fence there's a piece still there.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. We'll take that under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Notice.
Question 2. The Tasmanian Electoral Commission early voting station in the gallery. Are they paying a reasonable user fee?
A commercial high fee they pay? Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Parliament Street reconstruction. Thank you for your response to my question. When the original design was done, it should have been noticed that the poles would be in the footpath. Why then was it also not noticed by council supervisors when the work started on construction of the footpath?
Did you ask for this? We'll take that on notice. I believe we've already responded to that question, Mr. Russell, but the General Manager has agreed to respond in writing. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Were there any other questions?
Bob Vellacott, 11 Copper Place, Devonport. Mayor and councillors, I refer to my questions on notice for this meeting and the responses from the General Manager, Mr Atkins, to my questions without notice asked at the 22nd of March 2021 meeting, and his response in this meeting's agenda about the amount of flammable liquids, and that is ethanol, stored or utilised on site at Providore Place, and the safety of all both within the building and surrounds. Question 1. I asked the General Manager why he now refuses to give a guarantee or direct assurance that Providore Place is indeed a safe place for all to work and visit. Now it appears he has taken a cavalier attitude in saying words to the effect that he considers it is not necessary to make it his business to know the manifest quantum of ethanol stored or utilised in Providore Place.
Did you have a question, Mr Vellacott?
The question is why he refuses to actually give a direct guarantee or an assurance about the quantity.
Well, Mr Vellacott, my view would be that it is the responsibility of workplace standards to make those guarantees, make that safe.
Okay. Mayor and councillors, seeing as you do not have a clue about the manifest quantum of
Mr Vellacott, be very careful how you couch your questions. If you have a question...
I'm getting to the question, Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay. About the manifest quantum of ethanol stored at Providore Place, and also bearing in mind the propensity for fires and explosions in distilleries, storing and utilising ethanol, and the recent problems in Tasmania, interstate and internationally, where the industrial property insurers Global FM research found that it is not just the storage of spirits that is a hazard, but also the distilling process itself, which requires heat and produces ethanol vapour, and elements when combined can produce fires and explosions. Also, where liquor is made in small places with few staff, experts worry that the production and storage of spirits may be occurring with less than optional regards to safety standards. This may be taking place in a public space like a mall, etc., that now has not only visitors but also a significant quantity of liquids that can burn and release because they are combustible.
Mr Vellacott, I've asked you already to get to the question, please.
That risk in itself places the onus on all relevant authorities to appropriately regulate these occupancies. I ask again, now that each of you have been made fully aware of the potential risks, are you well satisfied that Providore Place, especially the TAFE cooking school and surrounds, are a safe place for all concerned, and that you understand your duty of care and related level of liability should any member of the public be injured in any distillery associated accident? I'm referring there to the industrial property.
Mr Vellacott, is
insurance
that your
global
question?
FM's
Is that your question?
recommendations. Pardon?
Is that your question?
That is my question.
My view would be it's been asked and answered.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, I refer Mr Vellacott to the question that he provided on notice and our written response, and we've got nothing further to add.
Did you have another question, Mr Vellacott?
Well, I just want this clarified.
Mr
You're
Vellacott,
saying that you do not
Mr Vellacott, your question has, Mr Vellacott, your question has been asked and answered. If you have a further question, you have time to ask it
You
now.
have responded, but certainly not answered. Question 3. Will the General Manager confirm if he has not conferred with Council's insurance company underwriters in regards to the unknown amount of ethanol stored and or utilised in Providore Place? Have you conferred with your insurance company and explained the situation there?
We've got nothing further to add on that, Mr. Belcott, your question
So
has...
I'll take it
You're
you
mis-
haven't. I'll
Mr.
take it that you haven't.
You
Is that
can
right?
take it as you choose. Your question has been asked and
No, it
answered.
hasn't been answered.
Thank you, Mr. Belcott. You've had your questions.
Oh, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
My name is Christopher Mills, 52 Caroline Street. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If I may, I'd like to give a very brief preamble, followed by 3 short questions.
Provided you are brief, Mr. Mills, that you have 3 minutes, so...
By the way,
Your 3 minutes have started, Mr. Mills.
By the way, I am an Australian resident. The endorser of the biannual review of Council's public land register was the General Manager. Agenda item 5.1, 22nd March. 15 new parcels of land were added to the list of public land. Significant by its actions was the land at 54 Caroline Street. The General Manager has claimed that this is, quote, public open space. In fact, the General Manager spent in excess of $9,000 of ratepayers' money in 2019-20 on this land to landscape it and beautify it for the benefit of certain members of the public. I have obtained evidence that this land at 54 Caroline Street is in fact privately owned, and that is the reason it remains absent from the public land register. Question 1. Did the owner, the title holder of the land at 54 Caroline Street, give this current administration consent to enter in order to cut down 9 trees? That is a question.
Through you, Mayor, we've written to Mr Mills on numerous occasions regarding the ownership and permissions and various similar items regarding accessing that land, and there's nothing further that hasn't already been said that we can add.
Thank you.
That is your answer, is it? In other words, you didn't have consent.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Did you have another question?
Question 2. Given that property on private land is private property, did this administration seek the consent of the owner, the title holder of the above land, to take away 9 large tree trunks and gift them to a third party?
I think that question's been asked and answered, Mr. Mills. Did you have another question?
It's a completely different question. Question 3. It is understood that the elected council is responsible for, quote, all matters relating to the General Manager's employment. What is the elected member's protocol for terminating the employment of the General Manager? That is the question.
That's a process for council. Thank you, Mr. Mills.
And where can I find that process?
The process would vary from council to council.
I'm talking about this council.
Thank you, Mr. Mills.
Look, with the greatest of respect, this is public
Feel free
time.
to put a question in writing to me, Mr. Mills. If you have further, if I haven't responded, I would be happy to respond in writing. Thank you.
You know, public question time deserves answers.
Public question time is for you to get responses to questions you perhaps haven't asked before. Are there any other questions? Everyone's here to know. Thank you. Moving on. Item 4 is Planning Authority matters, and I announce that Council intends to act as a planning authority under the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act of 1993 for the consideration of agenda item 4.1. Council is required by Regulation 8.3 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulations of 2015 to deal with items as a planning authority under the LUPA 1993 in a sequential manner. Final item is to be dealt with at this meeting in its capacity as a planning authority. And it is item 4.1, Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993, updated delegations. We have a recommendation there. Councillor Hollister, thank you. A seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Murphy? Thank you. Councillor Hollister?
Yes, this is just the yearly recommendation for the planning approvals approved by council to the general manager.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy?
Thank you, Mayor. It is a legal requirement under the fact now that Devonport City Council comes under the statewide planning scheme and under LUPA, we need to ensure that we are able to meet the compliance of that.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions? Councillor Hollister to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.1 is a report on the Don Congregational Cemetery Master Plan for 2022 to 2032. We have a copy of the report and the plan and a recommendation there, please. Do I have a mover?
So moved.
Councillor Milborn, do I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Hollister, thank you. Councillor Milborn.
It's good to see the public's interest in the plan and to beautify the area a little bit more, look after the grave sites that are damaged and unmarked. So I think it's all there. It's a great plan. Looking for it.
Thank you. Councillor Hollister.
No, it's all in the report, nothing further to add.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Milborn to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.2 is a tender report on contract 1340 for PCs and related services. Do I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Hollister, do I have a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Ennis, thank you. Councillor Hollister.
This is I presume it's a yearly thing that we look into varieties. Yeah. If you look at mine, you see it's stuck together with sticky tape and so forth, so I'm quite happy that I should be able to get another one.
Thank you. Councillor Ennis.
Nothing further to add?
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Councillor Murphy.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I think it's just, if COVID's taught us one thing, it's the reliance that the Devonport City Council has had on its IT and how valuable that has been, and the efficiencies and definitely the financial benefit of employing such services, and to continue that's very important.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Sorry, Councillor Perry.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. In addition to Councillor Murphy's comments, which were correct, this is just the cost of doing business with IT, and I think it's fair to say our IT department would be as highly regarded as any in the state. It goes without saying. So if we need to stay at the forefront and come up with new ideas, then we need to pay for it. So keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Hollister to close.
Yes, it's obvious we've had reports during the year of the savings we've had through our IT department. Just hopefully we'll continue those savings. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.3, Public Interest Disclosure Act 2002. There is a model update to model procedures that Council is looking to adopt. Do I have a move, please?
So moved.
Councillor Murphy, thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Councillor Perry, thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Yeah, look, it's very much a requirement as determined by the Ombudsman. It is something that it just hasn't been pulled out of thin air, and it's a critical piece of the organisation that we need to ensure we have.
Thank you. Councillor Perry.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, look, these types of policies are always a work in progress. We last reviewed in August 2017 and re-adopted in September 2017. And I guess we'll be doing the same in perhaps 2025. It's just the way it is, the way of the world, that these policies need to be updated, move with the times and move with society's demands and expectations. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Murphy to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.4 is the Year 5 status update on our bike riding strategy of 2015 to 2020. Do I have a move, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Milborn. Councillor Perry. Councillor Milborn.
Thank you. I'm really excited to see the progress that's been made in this strategy. I think it's really important not only for our bike riders in the community, but also for our less able-bodied people to be able to get around. The paths are fabulous. It's good to see that the Credit Coast pathway is moving forward as well. And there was a really good article in one of the national bike riding magazines of late, where a group got off the Spirit and rode all the way to Mersey bike
Wild Mersey.
Wild Mersey, thank you very much. Wild Mersey, and they could get off the Spirit and ride there on their bikes in safe environments. So it'd be great for tourism for our area, and look forward to seeing the next 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perry.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I agree with all Councillor Milburn's comments. And I know it's not quite the part of the bike riding strategy, but another good announcement in the weekend's press about further extension of our coastal pathway, which is, will pretty much bring us to an end for our infrastructure demands on the coastal pathway, or our infrastructure requirements, I should say. So that's a really good result. And you can cycle around Devonport now at your leisure. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. We just need the other party to match the promise, and we'll be all set. Councillor, are there any other comments, questions? Councillor Alexio.
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, it is an exciting project. I'd probably like to see one improvement made, and that's probably in Wright Street in East Devonport, that probably needs updating a little bit, where we have a truck route going along Wright Street, and hopefully we definitely look at that, maybe possibility of just changing that access through that street there, because the traffic flow the way it's set at the moment, it's probably not a very family orientated area to visit when you're riding your bike through that area. Just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sure you're aware that there's a much bigger picture that we'll be looking at there as well. Councillor Ennis, will you?
Yes, I think action 17 is that the bit that goes from, doesn't quite go from the bridge. It needs to go from the bridge up to the start of the new bike path, that the River Road bike path. Is that going to be included somewhere along the line?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. That was the section that Councillor Perry mentioned. It was the Labor Party committed to funding the $300,000 contribution towards the section along in front of the Ambleside shop. So from the bridge back to through the winding path through Ambleside.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
Question. Can we have a look at the Crown Reserve between the river and wherever the properties are, say going around through the riverside of Ambleside, River Road sort of thing? was overlooked at, was lived in the park now instead of being on the road, the park line.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, that was in the initial feasibility study when the cycling strategy was put together. That was looked at, and it was found that it was too complicated with private property and also environmental considerations and the cost of constructing the path. So on balance, it was it was identified that it would need to go parallel to the road.
Any other comments, questions?
One last, if I may. The section, Leary Avenue to Togo Road, Middle Road to Durkins Road, is that going to, does that link on to existing? Is that going to make a big circuit eventually?
Mr. Scurvy.
Through you, Mayor. Not a circuit link, but it is about identifying existing use patterns there. So there's a lot of bicycle traffic accessing the mountain bike trails in Kelsey's here at the moment. There are other council projects further on. Both of those projects are actually state government projects on their road network, but certainly supported by council strategy in terms of connecting other points within the network.
Councillor Ennis, any other comments, questions? Councillor Milburn to close.
Thank you everyone for your comments and questions. Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.5 is Year 3 status update on the waste management strategy of 2018 to 2023. Do I have a mover of the recommendation, please?
So moved.
Councillor Alexio, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hollister, thank you. Councillor Alexio.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, this is a pretty important update there. You can see the strategy that's been listed there with live lightly and promote reducing recyclable options in the community and businesses as well. So it's a great initiative to get going. And I hope you're fully supporting that.
Thank you. Councillor Hollister.
Yes, that's a bit of a moving first waste management. There's going to be some changes in the next couple of years, depending on the federal government and state government policies on waste management. Nothing further to add.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Ennis.
On page, could someone just confirm what I think? On page 38, I was looking at the graph there and it's sort of like a downward trend. Does that mean less recovery?
Yes.
So it's getting worse?
Stagnated.
Mr. Scurvy.
Through you, Mayor, yes, just confirming that is indicating a trend in the wrong direction in terms of resource recovery. That particular metric, though, does compare resource recovery volume against total waste volume. So as volume levels increase, which they do due to a number of factors, including growth, is one factor that implements that, so or influences that metric, but certainly the trend is headed in the wrong direction and potentially some evidence to support the need for, I guess, a significant shift in terms of influencing consumer behaviour, such as the waste levy that the state government is proposing to introduce.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Murphy.
Thanks, Mayor. As Mr. Scurvy has just highlighted, I think that's something that we will start preparing the community for, and that is the legislative change that is coming and the impact on that. So hopefully we will see a reversal in that trend, because I don't see any other option for a lot of people.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Alexio to close.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I hope this makes everybody think a little bit differently about using bags. Makes everyone think twice about what they use. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6 is information. Item 6.1 is workshops and briefing sessions held since the last council meeting. Do I have a move of that recommendation, please?
So moved.
Councillor Murphy, second. Councillor Ennis, thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. As you can see, on the 12th, we had a very, very long workshop evening. Some very interesting topics discussed. And people will note, obviously, there is a number of potential items there around property disposal, and they will obviously be dealt with appropriately.
Thank you. Councillor Ennis.
Nothing further.
Any comments, questions? Councillor Murphy to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6.2 is the Mayor's monthly report for April 2021. Do I have a mover, please?
So moved. Second.
Councillor Milborn, Councillor Alexio. Councillor Milborn.
Very busy man. I'd like to share with everyone the Maidstone Park Committee meeting, which I also attended. It was a glowing feedback for the council, which was fabulous. The lights that were put up at the football oval were a major success there. They had their first night game and had over 600 in attendance and
Ran out of beer.
ran out of beer, which was great. Fabulous. And the bottle wasn't open, so it was really good to hear such positive feedback. That was just one story from a lot of positive stories. So there are a lot of people that are positively affected from the council's good work out there. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Alexio.
Nothing further to add.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just a couple of quick ones. I did notice that whilst you were attending the Rotary Club Devonport North, that you were eyeing off a number of those red vehicles. Not too sure whether the council's budget can actually stretch to support you having one of those, Mayor, but anyway.
The GM said no.
And also, just in relation to if you're able to provide us, or members of the gallery, any more information in relation to the Liberals' announcement for funding commitments for the port upgrades and how important they will be for us moving forward.
Yeah, look, it is obviously it was a huge announcement, and particularly the fact that since then the TT Line have signed off on the new spirits, and that the Port Authority will need to do quite a bit of that work no matter what, is really important for us, and I certainly reiterated to the Premier how important it was for us to have that surety and that confidence around dates and so on. So it's huge for our city, our region and the whole state. Thank you. Councillor Murphy. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Ennis.
My comment would be after Councillor Milborn has mentioned of the great lights, we could be called the City of Lights.
We could.
There seems to be quite a few going around.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Milborn to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6.3 is the General Manager's report for April 2021. Do I have a mover of that recommendation, please? Councillor Hollister. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Murphy. Councillor Hollister.
Been busy as usual. I don't know if the General Manager's got anything to report on developments that's come out of any of his meetings that's available to the public at this stage.
Were you asking about anything in particular, Mr. Councillor Hollister?
Just something the General Manager said to come across before anybody else does.
Probably not.
That's not confidential.
Nothing this month.
Not at this point, apparently. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. I was probably going to ask the General Manager, but I will be more specific. Whether there was any public information available in relation to an update in in relation to the showgrounds project or development. And the planting of the trees, again, with the report North Rotary Club, and by our park.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, in regard to the showgrounds, I met with Simon Watt. It's really just an update on that he's close to lodging the rezoning, putting that together, and also a discussion around the community groups that he's dealing with out at that site. And he was looking for council's input on or ideas around how he might progress with some of those groups. And in regard to the planting of trees at Byard Park, we've, as you recall, that was a notice of motion that council approved and supported some trees being installed. We've been working with a representative from the club and agreed on starting the plantings along the northern side, so opposite the army barracks. And I think they expect to do that around July, August this year.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the General Manager? Councillor Hollister to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 6.4 is the Development and Health Services Report. Do I have a mover of the recommendation, please? Councillor Perry, Councillor Milborn. Councillor Perry.
Part of it's all in the report, an excellent report from Ms. Lawson. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Councillor Milborn.
I found a little bit interesting. One of the incidents that happened was a possum attacked a dog. That's a real thing? Was it a small dog or a big dog? I'm just intrigued.
Just a weak dog.
Through you, Mayor, that's correct. What happened was that a tree was removed, supposedly that made the possum come out of the tree and jump the fence and attack the dog. Not an overly small dog, but that was the reported incident.
Well done for handling that. I'm sure you handled it with the utmost respect. Nothing better.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, Mayor, it probably may be answered by Ms. London. She may or may not know. Have we got any evidence or any comparisons in relation to our building approvals relative to, say, previous years, or are they pretty much on par with how things have been progressing over the last 3 years or so?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. If you have a look at the graphs, Alderman Murphy, the blue line, do you get coloured version?
Yes.
The blue line that squiggles through it is the last 3 or 4 year average. So that'll give you an indication by month whether they're up or down. So is there a particular graph that you were looking at? What have we got?
Yeah, just looking at the building and plumbing one.
Yep.
We seem to be below, except the exception of February. We seem to be below the average, the 3-year average.
Yeah, something that's changed in the legislation. So if you go down a couple of graphs to the 5.2, you have to then take into consideration also the notifiable works. So and I guess the other one that you can consider is the value of works. So the value of works, with the exception of the spike in that, which is actually this building, we're well above the averages for like quantity of work that's happening. What we're noticing is that the early part of this year and late of last year was a huge or a significant increase in planning permits, and we're just starting to see the building permits come through from that now. So that answers your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Hollister, you have your light on?
Sorry.
No? Councillor Perry to close.
consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6.5 is the infrastructure and works report. Do I have a move or a recommendation, please?
Move that.
Councillor Alexio, thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Seconder, Councillor Murphy, thank you. Councillor Alexio.
No, it's all there in the report. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Yes, the infrastructure department obviously been very, very busy. But yeah, no, there's quite a bit been going on. The road upgrade at Devonport Road has come along quite nicely, even though I was probably a little bit concerned about expending those funds in this current financial year. But it seemed to go along okay, and we've got another stage of that to go.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions? Councillor Ennis.
Thank you. I was wondering, is there any reports on how the rock baskets are going down at the bluff?
Thank you, Councillor Ennis. Mr. Scurvy.
Through you, Mayor, so following the installation, we cleared out the ramp, and we haven't had a large storm event yet to really test it out, but early signs are that we're quite happy with how it's performing and maintaining the usability of that ramp for the community.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Oh, sorry.
Just add there, the comment on the last report around indicators of building activity in this report, if you look at the number of 337 requests on page 65, shows a significant spike in activity, to double the average trend. And the other indicator there, the dial before you dig requests are well above the average. It's on page 63, so there's a couple of good indicators there for how busy commercial activity is.
So perhaps for those who might be listening, the 337 certificate says?
Yeah, 337 certificate is an indicator of property sales. So when someone sells a property, they contact council, and so sort of shows that there's a very hot retail market at the moment, a residential sales market.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions on item 6.5? Councillor Alexio to close.
Nothing further. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6.6 is unconfirmed minutes of the Devonport City Council's audit panel. Do I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Murphy, thank you. Seconder?
I'm happy to second it, even though we're on the panel.
Councillor Perry, Councillor Murphy.
Yes, everything's there in the report. The councils will know if it's confidential, so hopefully they've had the time to have a look at that and get ready for the budget.
Thank you. Councillor Perry.
Concur with Councillor Murphy, and the audit panel working very well at the moment, I must add. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments, questions? Councillor Murphy to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. That brings us to section 23 committees, and we don't have any in session at the moment. So I will ask for a mover to move into closed session, please. Thank you, Councillor Perry. Councillor Murphy, any comments?
No, nothing there. Thank you.
No? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. It brings this open section of the council meeting to a close at 6:15. Thank you, gentlemen.